Yeah. Okay. So this week or last week, um, it things kind of kicked off with reports that I'm going to butcher this fella's name, Mojtaba Kamani, the former supreme leader's son, had emerged as the new supreme leader. At the same time, the conflict's center of gravity, which had been focused on attacking infrastructure and kind of city civilian targets, moved away from that and sharply focused on the Strait of Hormuz. So this is the War Hormuz edition, if you will. And that was on March 9th, Monday, last week. By March 10th, Iran had threatened to block the Strait of Hormuz in retaliation for the U.S. Israel strikes. The U.S. military said it had destroyed 16 Iranian mine laying vessels. And all of this kicked off global markets experiencing extreme volatility and rising energy prices. March 11th, 3 commercial vessels were damaged. I don't know if you saw these images on X or other media outlets. They're suspected to be Iranian attacks in and around the Strait of Hormuz. After these 3 commercial vessels were damaged, Trump came out and said tankers and oil companies should still go through the strait and signaled that the U.S. had made it safe to do so. Although I don't think anyone really believed that, and commercial traffic did not commence after Trump's reassurances. In response to the Iranian blockade or the significant reduction of movement through the strait, the International Energy Alliance (IEA) they launched a record-breaking release or promise of a release of 400 million barrels of emergency oil to stabilize global energy markets, basically try to keep the price down. Just for a little perspective, this 400 million barrel promise is more than double the combined emergency releases deployed in 2022. It just shows you that how severe this potential supply shock is going to be.
And the 2022 releases, those were surrounding the Ukraine war?
Yes, I believe so. And yeah, that was surrounding the Ukraine war, and more importantly, it was there was no threat of the strait being closed. I don't think at that time, right? It was just a kind of disruption, um,
Yeah.
and Russia threatening to take oil off the market or something like that, right? I believe that was the case.
And
But
around
even
the
then,
Nord Stream pipeline being bombed or destroyed.
yeah. But even then, no serious oil analyst that I was paying attention to said believed that oil was going to be taken off the market. It was just going to be kind of become like black market oil. The oil never was disrupted ever. It was still going out. It just was like technically, I guess, not accounted for. But the oil flows never stopped.
Right. And at that time, the emergency reserve release was a fraction of the amount being proposed here now.
Yeah. So this is double. And um, this is seen, as far as I can tell, as it's only a band-aid, right? If this were to continue out, I think 30 days, you'd see, I think it's a 8% shortfall in global oil. That seems like a little, like a small amount, but you have to remember oil is inelastic. It's kind of like food. If you don't have enough food, right? Even 1% not enough food, that's a huge disruption. People are going to, you know, be very, very, very impaired by that. So it's not elastic. You can't just be like, oh, you know what? Just gonna eat less Oil is similar to that, where you have to have a baseline of oil. So the demand is inelastic. Anyway, so March 12th rolls around. The Iran's new leader, the previously mentioned son, Khamenei, he gave his first attributed public comments and made clear that Tehran was not backing down. And he said Iran would keep fighting and it would keep using the Strait of Hormuz as leverage while also striking U.S. air bases. This is obviously not what anyone wanted to hear. And it shows that Iran really does know that it has this kind of, I think, asymmetric strategic advantage, right? The world really needs the Strait of Hormuz. This is why something like this hasn't been really um, been been done in the past 30 or 40 years, is because of this incredible vulnerability, and they know it. So again, not great for markets. Um, Same day, U.S. Treasury yields climbed as bond markets priced in a higher for longer interest rate environment. Higher energy costs means stickier inflation. This means that there's less likelihood of rate cuts. So anyway, the 10-year yield for the U.S. bond went up to 4.24%, and the likelihood of U.S. the Fed reducing or cutting rates shifted all the way out to September, and the market is now pricing one rate cut for 2026. Now,
Yeah,
one
and
rate cut.
actually, what I read this morning is that the actual amount of rate cuts being priced in is just 20 bips. So not even a full point.
Yeah. So, um, not great for certain parts of the market, for sure. Adding to this volatility, it's already a volatile situation. Trump's nominee, Kevin Warsh, apparently is going to face a Senate blockade when Jerome Powell's term is set to expire May 15th. Again, this kind of political unrest, really bad for markets. And you saw, for example, mortgage rates in the U.S. reach near 7%. Again, you're just seeing this kind of broad, what's it called? More volatility, more risk, and everything is now every aspect of the economy is now kind of pricing higher for this risk.
Yeah, and real estate markets in the U.S. already kind of on the brink. I've been noticing as well that real estate stocks are down significantly. One of the biggest, the harder hit sectors in equities.
Yeah, definitely. All right, March 13th. This was the biggest day last week for military escalation. So Trump announced that the U.S. had struck, Karg Island, Iran's main oil export hub. They said the U.S. said that they hit more than 90 military targets on the island, but they deliberately did not hit the oil infrastructure. Trump also warned that oil facilities could be hit next if Iran keeps interfering with Hormuz traffic. The global markets ended the week under pressure as the oil shock kind of started to finally rattle equities worldwide. Precious metals.
Yeah, so just on that note, the hardest hit global indices, it seems, are in East Asia, which is perhaps the most affected by the closing of the Strait of Hormuz. So Japan's Nikkei was down, I think, 1.5% on Friday, and other indices in East Asia also hit. Europe also affected the equity markets.
Definitely. U.S. stocks also closed lower. Everybody feeling the pain now, finally. Precious metals were flat, though. But I guess one silver lining for everybody listening here, Bitcoin was surprisingly resilient during this time. We'll see if that lasts. All right. Here we are, March 14th. Trump has made a shift from taking direct action to now asking for help. He, I think it was a Truth Social post, he asked for allies to help reopen and secure the strait. He directly called on naming these nations, China, France, South Korea, Japan, and the UK, to assist with securing the strait. Again, markets are not happy about this, and Brent crude once again surpassed $100 per barrel. You'll recall that it had spiked about 10 days ago to 120, then fell to 80, and now has climbed back up again.
Currently trading at around $100. Exactly.
Yeah. Yesterday, March 15th, Sunday, this conflict has now, I think, most pundits and news organizations have now clearly moved this conflict from kind of a regional conflict over, I don't know, whatever Israel and Iran and the U.S. were doing, into a broad energy security crisis. And this is the state of play now. Just as a side note, Iran has been in an internet blackout for 16 days, over 360 hours since the conflict started, roughly on February 28th. There have been 99% drop in internet connectivity. The Iranian foreign minister called this a, quote, necessary security measure against foreign aggressors. And so this still remains an issue within Iran. The interesting thing is, I can't remember who I was talking about this with, but citizens are turning to high-cost black market Starlink terminals and things like VPNs to bypass the blockade. And so you're seeing some internet access through Starlink. We talked about this on Token Narratives, I think.
Yeah,
on Friday, right?
Also on that report, supposedly authorities in Iran are raiding homes suspected of having Starlink terminals, and also targeting people who are using VPNs of any kind.
Yeah. All right. So as Graham, you often ask after these long summaries, what does
it
this
all mean? What does it mean for my bags?
What does it all mean? Well, first of all,
obviously,
the most important thing, yeah.
It's the most important. Yeah, no, it's not.
Okay.
But, that's what we're here for.
Yeah, so basically, the chances that this conflict will not have a material effect on the world economy is now a big zero. That's the kind of high-level bad news. Is from everyone that I read and pay attention to, the impairment that has already happened now, which we still really haven't felt, right? All the stuff that we've talked about in the market's reaction, markets are forward-looking. So this is what they're anticipating. We actually haven't felt the shock really yet, right? That's coming. But what's already baked into the cake is not good. If it were to stop today,